Hello and welcome to the Kick in the Creatives podcast, hosted by myself, Sandra Busby, and my fellow creative Tara Roskell, offering you interviews, inspiration, motivation, and a gentle prod in the right direction. And for lots more information, challenges, and other useful tools to help you get creating, you can go to www.kickinthecreatives.com. And of course, this is where you can also find today's show notes. Enjoy the show. So welcome to today's episode where Tara and I will be talking about facing your art fears, whether that's drawing or painting something you think you can't, or trying a new medium you've never tried before. We're going to talk about why it's so important to be brave and challenge yourself. So as always, before we get on to today's topic, we want to thank everyone who's been sharing their work with us on social media this month. Bradley Bergin, he has been joining in with the Poetry Challenge again this year. I always love reading his poems. And Joanna Brown, she's been doing both the Quick Kicks Challenge, which is continuous line drawing this month, and also the Poetry Challenge. And she's been kind of merging the two together, so making her drawings and then creating small poems to go with them, which I think is a really nice idea. And I've got to say, people seem to be loving the abstract challenge, and there are so many people getting involved with this. I'm finding it really hard to pull out specific names because they're just all so different. But here's a few. Cassie Nobbs, she's been really getting into it, and she's doing some really lovely work. And also Cheryl Martin, she's creating some really interesting work. But honestly, I could read out so many names that it would take up the whole episode. Frank J. Ferrer, he's been doing really well with the Kick 365 challenge. I think as we record this, he's just gone past the 60-day mark and he's doing really well with it. There's one other person actually who's been drawing some really quirky faces for the abstract challenge, but she's one of those people who just never seems to realise how great they are, and I can't think of her name. Do you know Tara? She's a bit mad, a bit bonkers. What's her name? Oh, Tara someone. Is it maybe Tara Roskell? Your faces, they've been great, but you keep saying, oh, I don't like this one. This one's not very good. But I think, God, they're so good. Everyone likes them.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I was going to talk about them later, but...
Well, we can talk about them later.
Well, okay, I'll talk about them later. But thank you, I think, in a sort of roundabout, uncomplimentary way you said that. Thank you.
So what's caught your eye?
Well, John Munro, he's done some fantastic poems. I don't know if you've seen any of those. Yeah. And I'm also loving continuous line drawings by Eva, I'm probably going to say this wrong, Eva Falk Wall Simpson and Katie_Taylor21. She's on Instagram. So they've been doing some fantastic continuous line. And Christine Mealaw, her abstract paintings, absolutely beautiful. I could just fall in love with those. Aww. They're so nice, so atmospheric. Oh, they're just beautiful. So, yeah. Anyway, what's been happening with you?
Well, I had to say goodbye to my latest painting a few days ago. That's my cigar and rum painting that's currently on its way to Belgium. And it was one of those pieces that I was really quite sad to see go. And you get them sometimes where you just really sort of you take a gulp when you wrap it up. And it's often the case because... You know, sometimes I almost feel like a little piece of me has gone with it. If I've really enjoyed something and, you know, you've worked on it and nurtured this thing and got it to a stage where you're like really happy with it. And if it sells straight away, you don't get to enjoy it at that stage for hardly any time at all. It's just gone. And then you're never going to see it again. So for the first time, I finally decided, this is something I've been meaning to get round to for so long. And I decided it was time to get some limited edition giclée prints made, and I'm really glad I did because I really couldn't be happier with how they've turned out. The match is just spot on. So I did some prints of my bottle tops painting as well. That's another one where I think once the original goes, I really know I'm going to miss it because it's so colourful. So I
really want to know, just tell me how the process works for doing these prints. What do you have to do?
Well, there's a guy in East Hoathly, and he is absolutely fantastic. He's a photographer, professional photographer. His stuff's all over the papers and magazines everywhere. He's so good. But on the side, he does these beautiful, these giclée prints, and he's got this studio that is specifically designed around photographing paintings to make them into prints. And when you go in there, it's kind of like he's got this huge, great big sort of lights. I mean, they're massive. They're bigger than me, long lengthways, and they're on these great big sort of frames that go up to the ceiling. And then you've got this overhead camera, and then he's got all these sort of colours on the floor, which is kind of, I don't know what it's called. It's like a scale, a colour scale, is it? And then a grey scale, and then he has to sort of scan the picture against these colours through to this other big old computer he's got. Well, it's like proper gadget. I mean, when you walk in there, I took my dad in with me, and he was like, "Oh, this is my idea of heaven." It's just brilliant. And then so his camera links to his computer that links to his printer, which is huge. This printer, it's not like the ones we've got. It's massive. And then he uses all this fancy paper. I don't know what it is, but anyway,
archival inks and stuff, I guess.
Yeah, it's pigment inks, and it's this German etching paper. I can't remember what it's called. Some weird name beginning with H. I don't know.
Handmule.
What was that?
I know that handmule's not that one, the same as the watercolor paper. They don't.
It has got a texture. It's really anyway. Honestly, I went and had a look at them, and they are so nice. I was so chuffed, and the detail that this thing's picked up. It's even picked up very, very faint pencil marks under one of my bottle tops, where it's gone that far into detail. So it's incredible, really. So I don't know how many I'm going to get done. I think I might do 25.
Is it expensive to get them done?
Yes, not cheap. I think one of the most expensive part really is getting the actual master image done. And then after that, obviously, you pay for the prints. But I thought if I do 25 of each. And then what's great is I'll get to keep one. So, and I'll have a record of some of the paintings I've done, which are not just a little file on my computer, which would be nice. So, yes, I'm just waiting for those to be mounted and backed. And then I'm going to put them on my website. Just wish I'd done it a long time ago. And, of course, I've been busy doing some bonkers things for our Art Kick Sunday videos, which you can find on our YouTube channel. I think Paul finally thinks that I've lost the plot because our weekends are just not the same anymore. So the other day, he was busy doing his, I don't know, the usual man stuff outside. And I've leant out from my studio window and I said, Paul, can you please come in here for a minute? I just need you to quickly tie me to this chair. He's kind of looking at me sideways and rolling his eyes. And a few minutes later, he came in with this kind of weird strap thing that he uses to secure things in his van. And it's like a giant seatbelt. And I'm like, well, haven't you got any rope? And he's like, well, oddly enough, I don't have
He wasn't expecting this.
I don't have a rape kit lying around anywhere. So, poor thing. He spends his whole weekends now just rolling his eyes at me and shaking his head. But at least he could never accuse me of being boring. And more recently, I keep catching him looking through my studio window and taking secret photos of me while I'm filming. So I keep having to shut my blinds.
Maybe we could actually use those in our social media, the secret photos he's taking.
Oh, God. Well, the thing is, they're not that great because they're reflecting mostly the sky from the outside. That's the only thing. But I think he finds it amusing, really. The other day I was wearing a wig and he got a bit of a surprise when he came to the window and had brown hair.
Oh, is that when we were imitating each other? That was fun, actually.
We're having a lot of fun, though, aren't we? So what about you? What's new with you?
Well, I'm enjoying doing the videos as well. Luckily, I can actually shut my door, and usually Kevin's out when I shoot them, but he does kill himself laughing. The one where we imitated each other, he watched that. He says, "Oh, can I watch it again?" He's like, "It just doesn't look like you, and it doesn't seem like you."
It's going to ask you to bleach your hair, isn't it?
Probably.
Paul's going to ask me to go brown.
But also, Morwenna Walcock, she tagged us because she'd actually been watching some of our videos, and she'd bought a cheap light box. You know, we did a little video about light boxes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so she'd bought one and she was saying how much she liked it. She'd only just got it actually, but she was playing with it. But surprisingly, she didn't mention that she wanted John Bergerman underwear that I was wearing in the video.
No.
So,
really?
no, I thought that was weird. Oh. We have explained about the John Bergerman underwear, haven't we?
I'm not sure we have, but anyone who wants to see them and see you doing your housework in your underwear, please check out YouTube.
Yeah, check about YouTube. That'll put anybody off, won't it?
Yeah. So all the views we've had so far are Kevin then.
Probably, yeah. Yeah, loving my John Bergman pants are actually unofficial, so we had to actually get his permission.
We did.
For using that.
Yeah.
So I've also been continuing with Abstract Art April. I've been doing, like you said, I've been doing faces. And I'm actually planning to do it as a 100-day project as well, but I'm going to reevaluate after 30 days just to see how I feel about it.
Can I just ask you about this 100-day project? Because we talk about it a lot. And I'm right in thinking it's just you can do any project at all, but it's got to be for 100 consecutive days.
It doesn't. It's supposed to be for 100 consecutive days, but people do take breaks if they go on holiday and stuff. So you will find people like maybe a month after are still playing catch up.
Yeah,
because life's got in the way, sort of thing. I actually started a day early because obviously Abstract Art April started early.
Yeah,
but also I think I'm wavering on whether I get to the end of 30 days, I may switch it up. But I'm just trying to make myself create more, I think. I mean, I've even cheated so far because some days I do 2 and then I might not feel like doing one another day. So I just use the one I've already done.
Oh, I see, yeah.
But I've started those faces and it's really weird with those because I started doing them and I loved it. And the first ones I did, I really liked. And then I've had an odd one that I've done that I've liked. But then you do some and you get a bit, doesn't look as good, and I think you start losing a bit of spontaneity.
Is it because you're bored of doing them after you've done them for a while, do you think?
I don't think it's actually boredom in this case, which is weird for me.
Yeah.
I think it's almost you get to know how you do them and then you become a bit more precise, if that makes sense.
Do you think for you the learning process is the most fun, and then once you've mastered something you almost crave that sort of experimental phase?
I definitely crave the experimental phase, but it's because when I first did these, I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm trying things out. But then when you do know what things you're doing, I think it becomes a little bit formulaic. What
about trying it with different mediums?
Yeah, well, I'm actually going to do that because for Easter, Kevin said to me, "Is there an Easter egg? Would you like some paint?" So I said, "Yes, please." So he's supposed to be buying me 3 tubes of paint of acrylic. Because I've got a load of acrylics already from years ago that I've dabbled with now and again. But I haven't got like a real good, like a crimson-y kind of a going towards purpley, pink, red. I've only got like a cad red. So he's getting me one of those, a proper orange. So because I've got so much orange in these, and a purple. I know I could mix, but I just thought it'd be nice to have.
Well, I think when you're doing it in such an immediate way, someone like you who paints like that's probably better from, not having to go through the whole process of mixing spot-on colours and all that. Because you just want to... You're more somebody who just wants to sort of, just see how this goes, because that's what you like, isn't it? It's what you enjoy.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. And I think it's a bit like, I always put it down to being like, when you're playing pontoon.
I've never
it's
played
a really weird analogy. But you know pontoon?
No, I don't. I've heard of it.
You know the game, what's it called? Like 21, when you've got to get 21 on the card game.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So when I sort of get a style, and I'm kind of working on it, I'm thinking, I think it's getting there. It's like I've got 17 in my hand, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, shall I carry on? In which case, I'll have another card and keep going. But then I might go bust and not like it at all. Or shall I just... I'd have this really weird analogy. Whether I should carry on going, basically, stick.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
Yes. So, I don't know. But I think it's something, anyway, I can always revisit, can't I? I don't have to stick to it.
Well, you could do... Because I know you're doing faces. Have you done any men yet? Because I've seen lots of girl faces. What about men and animals and birds? And have you thought about trying the same sort of style but for something different if you're feeling that way?
I've thought about men. Yeah. Thought about men quite a lot.
Try that.
I did do a man. The first one I did, it was like a screaming man.
Right.
The very first one I did. So yeah, I might try that. We'll see. I was doodling last night, so I might throw in some different stuff. But one more thing, I've also been listening to a lot of podcasts lately, some arty ones.
Yeah.
And I've realised we're missing something.
What are we missing?
We never use the word juxtaposition. So I think, because it seems to be a must with pretty much every art podcast I've listened to.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm thinking that we need to work it in
Juxtaposition.
to
Okay.
today. So
okay.
if you can think of a way of putting juxtaposition in there somewhere.
I'm trying to think of a way of juxtapositioning. I can't even say the word. That to the next link, which is basically talking about today's episode.
Yeah, I had to actually look it up what it meant.
I think it doesn't mean when you put something against something else. It's like in colours. If you put orange against blue, the juxtaposition. I can't say it. Juxtaposition. Who says that in a podcast?
The really arty-farty ones do.
Oh.
Yeah. So I think we need to do a bit of that. It's apparently an act or instance of placing close together or side by side, especially for comparison or contrast.
Ah.
There we go.
So it could be to do with a link from what you said to mine, which is in today's episode. We are going to talk about why it's important to face your fears and draw or paint what you think you can't. It's all too easy, isn't it, to stay well within our comfort zone, but daring to break out of that is a really important part of being an artist, certainly if you want to progress. And I think that's pretty much what you've just been talking about, really, Tara, isn't it? What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I think if you try something that you think is going to be really hard, you might really surprise yourself. And you never actually know until you actually try it. You don't know if you're capable of it or not. I didn't think I could draw these weird orange faces. It's also really difficult, I think, if you've got an established way of working. I'm probably quite lucky in that way that I haven't got, I don't think I've got an established style. But if you have, it must be quite hard to kind of breaking out of that, because almost like you, because you're known for kind of your glass paintings, it's much harder to break out of that way of drawing, facing the fear of trying something new.
Well, yeah, we kind of had we were talking yesterday, weren't we? It was quite funny because for the videos we are obviously sharing various things and ways to draw things and whatnot. And I've always been quite a pedantic sketcher in my sketchbook, haven't I, Tara? And one of the things I've always struggled with is just everyone says it, don't they? Loosen up. And I'm like, but it's not really something I've never done. It's something I've never shared. I think it's that fear of sharing something.
Yeah.
And I sent you a drawing. You said something like, what about something even more simple? So I thought, right, I'll give you simple. And I sent you, didn't I, a drawing I did. And it's funny because if I put a timer on to say draw a person in 1 minute, I would freeze. I wouldn't be able to do it. But I can draw a character in 1 minute, no problem, if I don't think about it. So I just did this drawing, and I do things like this a fair amount, but I don't ever show them. They're just more, like I was saying to you, they're just more when I sort of don't know what to do, and I'm just sort of almost doodling, really. I sent you one of these people, didn't I? And you really liked it, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I didn't think it was simple, but I really liked it.
But it's simple as in the fact that it's not pedantic at all. But my fear has always been sort of sharing stuff like that, which is really silly, really. So, and I was really surprised you liked it, and it's quite funny. Did you ever watch Friends?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well, do you remember the episode where Chandler discovers Monica's secret cupboard?
No.
Well, she's OCD and absolute clean freak.
Yeah.
Well, he comes across this cupboard and he realises he's never seen it open before and doesn't know what's in it. And she will not show him what's in there. So he tries everything he can to kind of break into this cupboard because he's desperate to know what's inside. And when he finally gets inside, all of this mess just comes tumbling out. And he just can't believe that she's got this other side to her, which is obviously she keeps well hidden in this cupboard, this messy, unorganized side. And really, when I showed you that, it was like me opening my cupboard and saying, "Go on then, Tara, have a look inside my cupboard." And you said, "I really like it."
I like your messy cupboard.
So it's quite funny because it kind of made me think, and I thought, I do this stuff and I chuck it. Maybe I need to stop being so scared about showing that side of me and actually just maybe embrace it a bit, maybe. I don't know. So yeah, that's something.
I was thinking about this, I totally get why you don't share it online, because it's not just about, yes, you've got a little bit of fear of sharing it, maybe because of how you'll be judged, but also when you're selling paintings like you do,
Yeah.
your audience, you don't want to suddenly throw them this completely off the wall thing that's completely different to what you normally do. And I get it, but that's why I wonder if you should use like those stories, because they disappear. So it's not in your normal feed.
Yeah.
So share it. But there is a thing where if you are selling work, you want to be seen for the kind of stuff you do, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I wouldn't enjoy painting like it at all. I really, really wouldn't. It doesn't interest me at all. But
Well, I can imagine it being painted. It'd be so nice.
yeah, with a paintbrush. Oh, don't. No, it's not. It's the painting style. I love painting, and I love that detail, and that's how I paint, and it's really is my style. But drawing's different, isn't it? It's more of a sort of escape and a joyful process, and it doesn't always have to be about capturing a perfect likeness and all this sort of stuff. So sometimes that can be quite joyful to do. But yeah, the fear of sharing, fear of now learning how to do Instagram stories. Oh, you have to make me a video, Tara, to show me how to do it.
I'll have to learn how to do it myself, then show you.
But I remember when I first started painting, you mentioned the glass.
Yeah.
And I always assumed that painting glass would be one of the hardest subjects to do. And, it would have been really easy for me to avoid it. But I decided that I was just going to tackle what I was most afraid of right at the very beginning. And that way, everything else would seem a lot easier. But I was really surprised because I just loved it straight away. And obviously it took time and practice and plenty of attempts that I wasn't happy with. But as you know, glass is now one of my favourite subjects to paint, and it features in a lot of my paintings. And it might have been that if I didn't face that at the very beginning, I might still be procrastinating about it, and I may not have got around to doing it.
I think sometimes doing a hard subject like that, actually, it becomes more of a challenge. It becomes more fun as well, don't you?
Yeah, I love the learning process. I like the puzzle of it. I like the working out, well, how can I make this look transparent? It's actually really quite easy. You don't actually paint glass at all. You don't paint the glass. You kind of paint the distortions and the refractions, and the glass kind of just happens. So it's thinking of it like that. I once had somebody email me actually, and she said, can you tell me what colour do you use to paint glass? And it was, and I thought, I can see why people might think that as beginners, but you don't have a glass colour at all. And but yeah, she was obviously sort of wanting to, and I said to her, don't be afraid of it, just do it, just paint exactly what you see.
Is it like the juxtaposition of the elements that are behind the glass?
I don't know about the juxtaposition.
Use that in the right context.
I don't think you are. No, I think you might have that a bit wrong.
All right,
but well done for getting it in there.
By avoiding what you're scared of, you can be holding yourself back from something you might actually love in the end. If you told me 30 years ago that I would be drawing how I do now, I really wouldn't have believed you, because it is so different. I mean, I think I've said before, I used to do really, really traditional watercolours, and prior to that, I used to do really detailed pencil sketches, which is so not me. So if you're feeling stuck or bored, or you're feeling a bit stagnant, it might be the time to actually, mix it up a bit and try something you're a little bit scared of.
Yeah, because, I think it's easy, isn't it, to, like you say, to sort of find everything at a bit of a standstill and wonder why. And it can be that you're just ready to try something else. And I think sometimes it can be bit more about being scared of feeling like a beginner again when you're trying something new, especially when you've been doing it for a while and you know that you're good at, drawing or painting, you're good at certain things. But having to learn something new, you're going back to that being, oh no, I don't know what I'm doing again. But you can't learn without getting over that hurdle. I mean, you had to do it when you started drawing, so you've got to do it whenever you move on to something different or a different style, you've always got to be a beginner again. And actually, I know that feeling quite well because especially since we've been doing Kicking the Creatives, and we're both having to do things that we probably wouldn't usually. And just because an artist is good at doing one thing, it doesn't mean to say that they're natural at all types of art. As you know, Tara, my biggest struggle is to simplify my drawing style, as I said before, because, like my painting, typically I get lost in the detail. So, I really want to get more involved in doing these sort of fun and simple drawings in my sketchbook. But to get better at it, I've just got to do it. And whilst, still at that stage where I'm not always happy with everything, at least I'm on the way to getting a lot better at it. I don't know how you feel about that.
Well, I think actually you saying, how you're scared of sharing it normally?
Yeah.
But you shared it with me.
Mm.
I think sometimes you actually have to share it with someone in order to know, because I might have said to you, it's not that great. And you could have just dismissed that.
Yeah.
But if someone else has said, yeah, I think that's got potential, then you can actually see yourself, well, I might work into that a bit more. I might work it up. It is worthwhile, experimenting a bit more. You do almost need a second or third opinion, don't you?
I agree, yeah.
And I think sometimes when you're doing something new, it's more about the fear of the end result. It's not going to be your best work probably, but you can surprise yourself. You've really got to get lost in learning and loving the process, because what you might lose in technique or skill, you actually might make up with the excitement or the freshness of doing something new.
Yeah, I think when you try something new and it turns out really badly, I think it can be really disheartening, can't it? I mean,
Totally.
Yeah, if you think of something you're really good at, but then think back to the first few times you tried it, then, the likelihood is that you weren't great at it at all back then. And it took time to get where you are now, and probably quite a few failures along the way. But what you've got to remember is that failure is not the opposite of success, but it's rather a stepping stone to success. And failures are what help us to improve, and we've got to have them to get better.
Yeah, I think it also might be afraid that you think you're never going to be good enough, whatever standard you judge that by. Because you see people, like on social media or whatever, and you see they are so far away from where you are now. You don't know if you can ever reach that point. So you kind of, is it worth me starting? But of course it is. And you might get there a lot quicker than you think if you really put your mind to it. I heard a really interesting interview with Diana Wackley. I don't know if it's Wakely or Wackley. Do you know?
Probably Wakely, I think.
Wakely. Anyway, she was talking about how prolific she is, which I thought was really interesting. She said she once went to a journaling workshop and she made 14 pages where most people made one. She says she's completely prepared to accept that she will make bad art because it's inevitable that you'll do that when you make a lot. But out of that time and practice will come good art. And I don't think she was even doing it for the sake of, knocking them out. That's just how she was. And they also talked about how a student might create a piece of art that they think is bad, but when the tutor themselves looks at it, they think, well, that would be something that I might make. But because they perceive themselves at much of a lower level, they kind of dismiss it. They can't see the good in it.
It's funny you should say that, because I know that certain, like those drawings I was talking about earlier, and if I saw that and it was done by someone else, I'd be like, oh, that's, great.
Yeah.
But somehow, because it's come from me, it's sort of scary. It's a bit like, oh no, I can't, that's not me,
Yeah, well, I wrote a blog post, I haven't shared it with you actually, last night about this. And I think it's because you can see so much the wrong bits, can't you, in your own drawing, whereas other people can't see it.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
And we dissect our own stuff as well, don't we? Rather than seeing it as a whole.
Yeah, I agree with that. And also, it's strange because I have this painting style and it's established and I've no interest in moving away from that at all. It's how I enjoy to paint. But what I find interesting, and I think has become more evident since we've been doing this Kick in the Creatives, is that I'm not sure what my drawing style is. Because I, as you know, in my sketchbook, I would do, portraits of people and pencil and they're always quite, well, I suppose that is more my style, my drawing style, but let's say sketching style then.
Yeah.
So, for instance, I drew in just a uniball pen, a pregnant woman, and that's all I did. It was just outlines. And it was very simplified. It was just basically that. But it was still carefully put down. I was thinking about where the lines were going. And then last night I did a ink and wash with a brush on watercolor paper of a woman, didn't I? With
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember drawing something. I know that you like the Crystal Cook one I did, didn't you?
I do.
I did a portrait of her years ago in my sketchbook, and it's kind of like that. Haven't practiced that for a long time, but I thought, I'll do one of those, and so it's making me. And of course, I did, showed you the other day, didn't I? The ones that I do in probably a minute.
Yeah.
And then I kind of look at it and think, actually, I didn't know that I had all these styles to choose from. It's because I tend to stick with one. But actually, I've realised that it's quite fun looking at all these things, thinking, actually, just because my painting style's like that, I can play when it comes to my sketchbook. I can just do what I want.
That's the point of a sketchbook, isn't it? Not to be scared of trying anything out in there.
Yeah.
And that is actually a good point, because I saw someone, actually it might have been, I can't remember who it was, someone on our group basically, and she's doing abstracts. And she says, I've realised this time that I'm doing these all in my sketchbook. Because if I do each of these out of my sketchbook, the abstracts, then it becomes more pressure on it. Whereas I have no fear. There's no fear in a sketchbook to experiment and be loose. Which is almost like what you're doing.
Well,
if it's in a sketchbook, you're allowed.
Yeah, except...
Oh.
no, I agree. But this is where those really loose ones I keep talking about. When I will show a video of those. We'll do a video on fast sketching, shall we? For our Art Kit Sunday.
Yeah.
We'll do that and
Yeah.
I'll show them. But interestingly, I've only ever done those on scrap pieces of paper, as just playful, like I'm bored, I don't know what to draw, and I'm just really doing it without thinking, because I never thought they would be good enough to go in my sketchbook.
That's madness.
Which is
I'm the opposite.
It is madness, isn't it? I mean, funny enough, I'm doing exactly as long as I've been painting and all the rest of it. I'm doing at the moment exactly what a lot of the people in our group and a lot of newbie artists do, really, with their sketchbook. I have this new sketchbook because I finished my old one. How long ago did I finish my old sketchbook, Tara? You know?
I don't know.
Oh, I reckon it's about 2 or 3 months ago now. Had this new sketchbook. Actually, Adele bought it for me for Mother's Day. And
You've mentioned that one. Have you not started that one?
No, I haven't, because it's that afraid to start the first page. And do you know what? I'm preach to everyone. You just go for it. But actually, it's, I still have those hurdles myself. So I think maybe, I might just use that specifically to fill it with these just really fast sketches, because then there really is no pressure.
You should have bought yourself one of those pound ones from the works. Then you wouldn't feel precious, and it's in a sketchbook.
Yeah, I like the A4s though.
Oh, okay.
No, I think this is what I'm going to do. I think.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
go for it.
Yeah. Where were we?
Well, I'm supposed to be saying something most artists are guilty of as well is comparing themselves to more experienced artists.
Yeah.
But the reality is that everybody was that beginner person once. It took a lot of practice and a lot of failures to actually get their skill to the level it's at. You just don't see all those years that came before it.
Oh, I remember when I started, and I really aspired to be, I really want to be able to paint like that. I really want to be able to paint like that. And now when I really look back, I think actually I've gone a long way over that now. And they're at a different level altogether. But do you know what I mean? You kind of, everyone's different for a start. So it doesn't actually, you don't want to be like anyone else anyway. But you have to just keep going on the journey and you'll get there. It's just well, like I've said before, and I say this all the time, being willing to be bad before you can get good, When I was in my late teens, maybe early 20s, I used to really like, you'll be surprised at this, Tara, I used to love drawing little cartoons. But since I've been painting the way I do, I stopped drawing like that. And I actually really miss it. And I think now, because I've lost touch with that side of my drawing, I've been avoiding it just in case I'm no good at it anymore. And I really do want to kind of, experiment with doing cartoony drawings, as you know. And that's the one type of drawing I'm not quite allowing myself to do because I'm like, oh, I'm scared. But as I say, recently I've been experimenting with, sketching and drawing again in that kind of simple style. And, I haven't found a style that comes completely naturally to me yet, but I have drawn some things that I really liked. Remember that? Do you remember that drunk woman I drew, Tara? Remember?
I remember when you said you were drunk when you drew it.
Well, yeah, but she was. Yeah. I drew a drunk
she
woman.
Was really
drunk.
Good. Yeah.
No, I'd had a few, and I drew this woman who was sort of just sitting there with a glass of wine, wasn't she? A bottle in her hand or something like that. I don't know if you're thinking about the same one as I am. It's the one with it's innumerable pen, and she's kind of got like a negligee on. I mean, not see-through.
Oh no, I don't think I don't know. I've seen one where she got like a kind of. She looked a little bit eccentric, and she'd got. I can't remember what her hair looked like.
Oh, you're not thinking about the one with the feather boa on?
Possibly.
Oh yeah, no, that wasn't the one. Funny enough, that was. Yeah, I know what you mean. No, this is a different one. I'll text it to you later.
All right.
I'm sure you've seen it, but anyway.
It's not a rude one, is it? She's got a negligee on.
No. When I say negligee, it's not a negligee. She's just sitting in a 90.
She's sitting in a onesie.
No, that would be me. I wouldn't be in my negligee. But funny enough, that drunk woman I drew, that is one of my favourite pages in my sketchbook. But I really wasn't comfortable at all with it at first. But as soon as I was just able to see it for what it was, a bit of fun and something different, I realised that I really liked it. So maybe that's a style I want to revisit again. But yeah, I suppose I kind of do feel a bit like a beginner again because it's way out of my comfort zone, all of this stuff. But put me in front of a glass of rum or some marbles reflecting on glass, I've got absolutely no fear of painting that at all. But a simple sketch in a style I'm not used to can feel quite alien.
Yeah, it is. I don't know. I think everything is new, isn't it? As soon as you pick up a new medium, it's new. I mean, for me, when I started drawing again by hand, when we started the Kicking the Creatives, the first time I drew that bottle, when I'd had a few, was like completely alien. And it gradually comes back. I mean, it depends how much drawing you did when you were younger, I guess, doesn't it, as well?
Yeah.
How much it comes back. But you do kind of expect yourself to be better than you are. And I think, as well, if you watch a few tutorials, it's really bizarre. Because I can watch a tutorial maybe on how someone lays down a watercolor wash or something.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to paint those a lot, but I'll watch that and I think, oh, yeah, I can do that now. And then you try and do it and you think, oh, my God, that didn't quite work out as planned.
Yeah.
It's like watching it, you think you know how to do it then. It's quite bizarre. But I think that's why you need to work out what your fear is. If it's just something you avoid drawing, then the only way you can get over that is actually to try it and keep doing it over and over again. And also, sometimes you think you won't enjoy something, but when you actually try it, you can feel really differently. And that can really, really change over time. Just because you're worried about drawing something 5 years ago or you didn't like it 5 years ago, it doesn't mean you'll necessarily feel the same way if you try it again. It's like that food. Do you remember when you were a kid and you absolutely loathed certain foods?
Yeah.
And now you think, oh, I love it.
Olives.
Do you know, I'm the same with olives.
I used to hate them, but now I love them.
And apparently there's supposed to be an olive thing where you have to do it,
7.
eat them.
You have to eat
Yeah.
7. It's funny because Paul hated olives, and then we went to a Jamie Oliver restaurant up in London, and they had some olives in the centre of the table. I can't remember what they're called. Begin with K. Halkidiki olives. Oh no, Halkidiki is it? Begins with H. Something like that. Anyway, and they were sitting in the middle of the table, and he was so hungry, and he said, "I'm so hungry," because he'd not eaten because he knew he was going out for dinner.
Yeah.
And I said, "Just try one of those," and he was that hungry that he actually tried one. I said, "You've got to eat 7. If you eat 7 of them, then you'll like
I thought
them."
it was 7 times.
No, I think it's 7 olives in a row, isn't it?
Oh, I don't know.
And yeah, that completely transformed his taste buds into loving olives. He really likes them now. Do you know what else I used to love when I was a kid, but I cannot stand it now? It's like sticking my tongue in a sugar bowl. Cream soda. Do you remember that?
Oh, like when it tastes like ice cream.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
It's like
vaguely
it's like
remember it.
lemonade,
like
but
Coke floats. A bit like Coke floats as well.
Yeah, do you know, my nan used to have that when I used to, because I wasn't allowed fizzy drinks at home. We were never allowed fizzy drinks. And actually, I'm thankful for that because my teeth have always been very, very good. And I can only thank my parents for that because I used to be annoyed that we couldn't have fizzy drinks. But funny enough, I never let my kids have them either. But my nan, however, she always used to have cream soda and cherryade. And when we went round her house, it was this like excitement. Oh, we're going to get a fizzy drink. And it was bright red and this cream soda one. Yeah, it's just like ice cream. And I used to love it. But I tasted, it came back on the shelves a little while ago, didn't it? And I thought, oh, cream soda. I can't wait, you know, how nostalgic that's going to be. And I took a sip and it was revolting. It was just so sweet and sickly. I thought, oh, how anyone could drink that stuff, I don't know.
Oh, I bought some snowballs. I still like them though.
Oh, my nan used to have snowballs as well.
Amazing.
Yeah. She used to give
I
me
just
them at
kept on
Christmas.
drinking them like in the middle of the day though, which isn't ideal. Only one. But
She used to have snowballs and baby sham, and I used to have them at Christmas, and I was probably about 9.
that's not good.
Yeah.
I was just thinking actually, maybe we're talking about the olives, and maybe we should look at everything that we do like olives.
And try everything 7 times.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good idea.
You cannot judge, for example, oil pastels. I used to loathe oil pastels. Yeah. But unless you try them 7 times, you won't know if you like them or not.
Do you know, I got rid of mine because I hated them so much. My oil
You
pastels.
might like them now.
A bit late now. Got rid of them. I got rid of loads of stuff. Pastels.
Because they're a bit like the neo pastels that I'm using at the moment.
I think I had neo pastels as well, and I think I got rid of those.
Oh, did you? Oh, you could have sent them
I
to
got rid of
me.
loads because I you know what it's like. You think you need everything,
Yeah.
and then you realise that you hardly need anything at all, really.
Yeah.
And I was going through my drawers in my studio and think, well, I have not touched this box of pastels for 7 years. So yeah, I'm going to get rid of it, and I did. I don't regret it because I still know I don't like pastels.
You did give them away though, I take it.
I gave them away, yeah.
That's good.
Oh yeah, I didn't throw them away.
Yeah.
Do you know, I don't know how we got onto olives. I don't know how
It's because I was saying that the way you feel about things can change. So things you didn't like years ago.
Yes.
Yeah, that's how it was. And now we've got the 7-time olive
Challenge.
challenge.
Yeah. Do you know, though, it's when it's drawings and things, it's one thing, but there's nothing more disheartening than spending hours or even days of your time on something that ends up going in the bin. And this has happened to me before. I remember years and years ago, I've spoken about this before. This is when I very first sort of began. I did a series of vintage vintage teddy bears, surrounded by vintage stuff. And I decided I'd do another, I think it was my 7th at the time, out of 8. And it was one of those pieces that just did not go right from the start. But I kept saying to myself, I've spent too much time on this now to throw it away. I can't. I've got to make it work. And I think, I can't even tell you how many hours and hours and hours of time I spent on this blooming painting. And the worst thing was, most of it was really, really went really well. And there was just this one element that went so badly, and I just couldn't write it. And ended up putting my foot through it. But
Oh, no.
yeah, I did. But the funny thing was, I was so relieved when I did that, because I thought, if I don't put my foot through it, I'm going to pick it up again, and I'm going to keep picking it up, and it's never going to go right. But what I do realise is that I learnt really valuable lessons from that painting that went wrong, and I put that into my next piece, you know, armed with that bit more knowledge. Well, you know, I'm not going to do that again.
Yeah.
You know, now I look back and I think, why didn't I just paint over that part of the painting? And I don't know. But anyway,
Be interesting to look back now. Did you ever take a photo of it?
I took a photo of elements of it, yeah, the ones I loved.
Oh, I just wondered if now, if you looked at it, you might not think it looked that bad.
No, I think I probably wouldn't. I think you're absolutely right. Now I can see a way that I could have just, painted over the part that wasn't working and changed it. I could have done that, but I didn't. But there you go. It was a lesson. But yeah, that's exactly it. It was a lesson. But yeah, I mean, when it's drawing, I think it's very different, isn't it? You're using a piece of paper. You know, you're spending minutes or maybe an hour or so of your time. But when you've been doing something that's takes a long time to do,
I don't know. I still think that sometimes people have a fear that they're wasting time. Like, even if they've just done a drawing that's half an hour or whatever, that if people saw their efforts, they think, why you're wasting your time doing that? Or perhaps there's a guilt that you feel like you should be doing something else, maybe with family or chores. It's that making time for the thing, you know, and not feel afraid that you're doing something wrong by doing it. You might also be scared that your expectations actually exceed your current ability, which we were talking about before, being the beginner thing, that you might actually get negative feedback, especially if you share something. We do actually have an episode about this, don't we? It's episode 9, dealing with negative feedback.
Oh, yeah.
However, I think that most people on social media, in general, you get the odd one, but most are pretty kind and encouraging. I mean, I've found anyway. And you might even find that people love it, even if you've done something you're not overly keen on. They'll think it's great.
Yeah. I think Instagram is one of those things, isn't it? I think that because you go on an Instagram page and you kind of look at all the thumbnails that are there, don't you? And you're supposed to post daily, although I don't post daily because I just don't. I should.
But you will when
Probably
you start
should.
doing your sketches and your stories, won't you?
Well, that's the thing, you see. Now, as a painter, a still life painter, when people come and visit my Instagram page, what do I want them to see? I want them to see paintings that I've done or I'm doing, because that's what I do generally.
Yeah.
If I post daily sketches that I've been doing in a minute, before you know it, they'll be scrolling down for hours trying to find the painting. So that's where I struggle a bit. I'm like, well, I can't really do that because then people won't really know what I'm about. Do you know what I mean?
No, that makes total sense, yeah.
So, yeah, I suppose that you could always have 2 accounts. Oh, I haven't got time for 1 account, let alone 2.
Well,
So.
the story, I think.
The story.
Gets rid of that.
I think you're right. I think that's a really good idea of yours, actually. Yeah, I might. I'm going to look into that. I always worry about those stories, though, because I think it wasn't on Facebook once where I clicked on something and I had this horrible feeling that it was actually videoing, live streaming or something. And I was just in bed watching TV, playing around, and that's what worries me. I think, oh my God, have I accidentally posted something to a story, like my foot or something? So I need to. What I need to do is watch a tutorial video on it, I think. Yeah.
Well, I actually got really weird. I've actually got really weird lately about my Instagram, and this is really stupid because I haven't got a big established style, but I've been doing these weirdy orange drawings, and I kind of like the way my feed look, not the feed, like you see your homepage. I kind of like it because you can see all these orangey paintings all together at the moment.
Yeah.
But now I've done some, so for example, last night I was doing some doodling and I was just going to share those rather than doing a painting. I need a break from doing those, the orangey ones. And now I think, I don't want it. I'm sounding like you. I don't want a black and white drawing in my orange feed.
Yeah. Well, maybe you could do some blue drawings. If you do some blue ones, you could juxtaposition them against the orange. You could be going through a blue period.
I could do.
And also your doodles, you know what you need to do? Put them on a story.
Yeah, I do, don't I? I can't get precious. I don't want to get precious.
No, it's very different. It's it's easy to slip down that rabbit hole, isn't it? Of like,
it is.
And I do feel that when I scroll down my feed, sometimes I think, well, that really doesn't look like it belongs there. And half the time I think, should I just delete that? But I think, well, I need to not get so precious, But it's hard when you're trying. When you want people to visit your page and see the art that you're known for and what you do and what maybe you sell or whatever.
Yeah.
If you start putting 5-minute sketches in amongst it, and then you're doing that on a daily basis, of course you can't post every day if you're doing paintings. Well, you can. I suppose you can post progress shots, but you can't. You can't do it.
Depends
daily.
how quick you are, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I'm not.
I'm not.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think for me as well, it's a thing that eventually I'd quite like to sell some of my work.
Yeah.
Once I find something I'm really happy doing, I was quite enjoying the faces, but it's that this weird thing, isn't it, going on in your head where, should I make it all this one thing or shall I mix it up a bit?
Yeah, yeah.
And it's the difference between, I guess, kicking the creatives and then wanting to look like a professional artist. If that's a weird thing to say, isn't it?
But I think you already have that style. I mean, you can even when you're not doing your orange people, you can see everything of yours. You have a style. You have a thread of some description. I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it, but there is definitely a thread there. I don't know whether it's a ribbon of colour that you use or something, but something ties all of your stuff together. So you've definitely got style. So I don't think it matters. I really don't.
I know I've completely forgotten what we were going to say.
Well,
your turn.
We keep forgetting where we are because we keep going on a tangent. No, we keep going off. Are we going off topic? Kind of. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think, sometimes starting is the problem.
Yes.
So we can procrastinate, can't we? So much. And the problem might be that you have this kind of perfect image in your head and that you're almost scared that it won't turn out the way you hope. And there really is only one way to find out, isn't there? And that is to start. But that sometimes it's picking up the pencil or the paintbrush is the very hardest part. And once you put that, on the paper, it's, it'll be fine. It's just it's that bit that's the hardest bit.
It's the first thing, isn't it? I had that with I did that one with the really grey one with the guy with the newspapers in his head.
Oh, I love that.
I had that in my head. Well, that is actually a revisit of something I did at college. It's done a totally different way, but the actual theme. But I have one or two more in my sketchbook, and I did another one after that, which didn't work out, and I hated. But I have another one in my sketchbook, and I keep holding back on creating it in case it doesn't look how I want it to look. I want it to look like that first one, but I keep also have an indecision about what medium to use, and so basically it just sits there. And because I like it as a sketch, because I tend to really, really like things, how they're loose and doodly and come out when I'm not over-laboured. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And then it's really hard then to put that into a more finished piece.
I think as well, it's hard when you've done something like that you love. You're trying to emulate it in some way. It might be a different drawing, but you're kind of trying to give it the same feel. And I think it is hard, isn't it? Because you've got that expectation, and then you fear that you might fail. It might not be as good as the last one. There's always going to be times when things aren't as good as the last one, But you've got to go through them. You've got to do them to get onto the next one.
Yeah, and it's as well when I've done the Duff second one. It's that like
doesn't mean there'll be a Duff third one though. I know, and I think it's also that being scared of certain mediums, isn't it? For example, you hear how tricky watercolor is, and so that can put people off. And sometimes I wonder if my dislike of acrylic paint
on basically paint in general is caused by the fact it slows me down because of my lack of experience, and also there's a bit of fear there probably.
But watercolor you'd be all right with, wouldn't you?
I'm not scared of watercolor.
No. And that's fast.
Yeah, but really weirdly, it's still not fast enough for me. I'll still get fed up waiting for it to dry.
Hair
But
dryer.
I found this thing, a really weird tip, and you probably know this tip already. But do you ever think, I can't believe that I've never known that for like 30 years? Because I used to paint like that all the time.
Yeah.
And I keep seeing people saying, before you start with your watercolours, spray them all with water.
Oh, right.
Did you used to do that?
Well, no, stretch your paper.
No, this is your actual paints.
Oh, spray them all with water, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then it helps them to soften.
Well, I never, ever got taught
Oh, really? You're
Out
talking
of
about
all
the
the
pans,
years.
aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Out of all the years, obviously, if you use, even in tubes, I guess you can squirt a bit out and spray them a bit.
Because it's
But,
funny
yeah.
when you open a dried out pack of watercolour pans, it
Yeah.
can be surprisingly hard to work them up into a puddle of paint when they're bone dry. I think certain pigments are worse than others. I don't know if it's alizarin crimson or something like that, but I remember that one was particularly hard. So yeah, just spraying them with water means that, a few minutes before softens them up a bit and makes them slightly more easier to work up. But I don't like the pans at all, never have. I like the tubes.
No, well, I used to use tubes actually, but I've been using pans at home. But I just thought, I can't believe that I never knew that. And so it's amazing what you can learn.
Yeah. You'll never know unless you're told, will you? It's just little tips.
But even after years,
Yeah.
but I've years of reading books way back on
Yeah,
it, and
yeah.
all that sort of thing.
I used to have a watercolour, it was a Jonathan Pike, I think. Well, I've still got it actually, big palette. And for years, because I used to paint with watercolour years ago,
Yeah.
and I struggled with the beading. Oh, when it beads up into little bobbles. And it was...
In your palette,
Yeah,
you
it was
mean?
quite an expensive
Yeah.
palette, and it used to really annoy me, the fact that it would just bead up. So instead of having a lovely puddle of paint, you'd get these little balls forming. It's just annoying. And then, it wasn't that long ago, maybe a year or so, I saw somebody online doing a video and saying what you need to do when you buy any new watercolour palette. As soon as it comes through the post, get your flower paper or the finest sandpaper you can and just gently sand the surface, because that takes away that sort of finished,
Oh, I didn't know that.
glossy, and it doesn't scratch it at all. It just takes that very superficial sort of slippery surface off. And I thought, God, I wish I'd known that back then, because it used to drive me mad.
Well, you said as well you can add something, which I can't remember what the liquid was to it, and that would help.
Gum, Arabic gum,
yeah,
Arabic.
that was
Sorry.
it. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was the one.
Well, anyway, this definitely isn't a watercolour episode.
Sorry, should we go back to acrylics?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm probably a little bit scared of acrylics, but I don't know if it's scaredness or just impatience. Probably a bit of both rolled in. But probably if I was better at it and more skilled at it, then it probably wouldn't frustrate the hell out of me quite so much.
Well, acrylics, they dry so fast. That's
They
why
dry so blooming slowly.
Yeah.
I want them to dry quicker.
Oh no, you'd hate oils then. It depends if you're using them like watercolour. The great thing about acrylics, they're light fast, aren't they? Which is great. Whereas watercolours aren't always. But you can use them like watercolour, so that's good. But what about, have you tried acrylic inks?
Yeah, I've got some acrylic
Yeah.
inks. They're quite cool, but they don't give the sort of effect I want. Is not a translucent thing. It's I want thick paint.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
Why don't you, if you're worried about things that dry too slow, then why don't you have several pieces on the go
Yeah.
at once? So you think, while
Well,
that's drying, I'll do this first layer of this one.
That's what I was doing with these faces.
Yeah.
Because I was doing a watercolour underpainting, just a basic.
Yeah.
I wasn't using a pencil. I was just drawing them out, colouring watercolour.
Mm.
So I was having two on the go.
Yeah.
So then while one watercolour was drying, I have the other one being done because I can't even wait for watercolour.
Oh, I've just had a bit of inspiration.
Oh, right.
Oh, yeah, I'll talk about it later. It's about one of
Oh,
our
it's
videos.
nothing to do with
It's one of our
podcast.
videos.
Oh,
Woo!
okay.
Sorry, that was bang in the middle of an episode. That's so unprofessional. But I used to paint with watercolors because I was really afraid of using oils, believe it or not. And I'm an oil painter, and I mean the mediums of oils all sounded just so complicated. And you get this vision, don't you, of somebody with millions of jam jars and they're mixing recipes and all this to make their medium and blah blah blah. And I think, God, that looks so complicated. But a friend of mine who's also an artist, she finally persuaded me to give them a go. This was obviously a long time ago now. Do you know what? As soon as I tried them, I just fell in love. I never looked back. I just loved them straight away. And they're not complicated. I thought they were complicated. I was frightened by them because I felt that, oh no, I can't do that. That just looks so complicated. And it really isn't. I mean, yeah, there are lots of different oils and mediums, and eventually you might find the perfect recipe of your own for your painting. But until then, when you're starting out, there are plenty of ready-made mediums out there that you don't have to mix up at all. And if they turn out to suit you, then that's great. But if you don't even need to change. You don't have to change anything. But now when I look back, quite frankly, I think watercolours are much harder than oils. It's funny, isn't it? The thing I was most afraid of is easier than the thing I was doing at the time.
Yeah, it's what you're used to, isn't it? And I think as well with anything, you can make it as complicated or simple as you want. It's like I've started watching a few acrylic videos, tutorials. And some of them go into all this fancy stuff about using all these texture pastes. All this stuff. And yes, you can use texture paste if you want to, but you don't have to. You can just start with the tubes and some water.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Definitely. Yeah, I did do acrylics for a while as well. I didn't like them because they dry too quickly. I've never liked them, but yeah.
Well, the next bit I was going to say, we've already covered. So I don't know if you want to go on to talking about going to workshops.
Yeah, that's another thing, isn't it? Workshops. I think sometimes it really is just one step forward and two steps back. It's just the nature of what we do. And I think one great way of getting past all of this is to find an artist who you really admire and see if they do workshops. And that way, at least you get a bit of guidance to help you along the way, and you can experiment alone with a bit more confidence behind you. And actually, a lot of artists, I think, worry about going to an art class or a workshop because they're scared that they'll be the worst in the class. And I think sometimes the unknown is far worse than the reality. And apart from that, you'll find that everyone there is probably feeling the same. And most of you, will only be interested in your own results. They're not going to be passing judgment on yours. They're going to be looking at their own and judging theirs. And if you do feel like you're worst in the class, then maybe it's a sign that that's just not the right one for you. But don't let it put you off trying a different one, because sometimes you have to experiment with styles before you can possibly know, if you're going to be any good at it or if you're going to enjoy it. And I remember going to a workshop once years ago. I think I may have spoken to you about this before. It was before I'd ever even found my style or the medium I loved. And this will make you laugh. The artist was teaching how to paint really, really loose, almost abstract watercolours. And I felt so out of my depth. I definitely felt like I was the worst in the class. But, if you look at how I paint these days, well, it's no wonder I felt like that. It just wasn't a good fit. It was never a style that was ever going to be one that came naturally to me at all. And since then, I've been to other workshops which have been really suited to me, and I love them so much. I've wanted to go back on to a third one with the same person. But I think, so it's important not to get disheartened by that and not worry about being the worst in the class. I think you just got to do it. And I think the most important thing is just to overcome that fear. Just give it a go, because you really don't know until you try.
And I think as well, if you go to a workshop, okay, that one was totally wrong for you, the abstract watercolor one. But if you do go to a workshop and you're the worst there, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because
how is that now?
Because that means everybody in the room can help you.
Oh, yes.
Because, it's totally different. But when I used to go to karate, I was the worst in the room, basically. Because it was a very small class and all the guys were black belts, apart from me. And basically, it was generally all guys and me. So I was useless, but it meant that whoever I got paired up with could help me.
Yeah.
And that's probably what you're going to find, as long as it's not a really arrogant or whatever workshop. If you're in like that, whoever you sit near is going to be able to give you advice.
Yeah.
If they're better than you.
Yeah. And then one day you'll find it will be someone else coming up to you and asking for advice. Because I remember this exact same issue with that watercolor class. You know, I was like, oh, help, how are you doing this? How are you doing that? And people were like, oh, yeah, no, just do it like this. And yet when I did the class that suited me much better, you know, I had people coming to me saying, oh, I just don't understand, you know, how are you doing this? So it's, you know, just finding what you're good at and what you enjoy. And if you enjoy it, who cares anyway if you're the worst in the class, like you say. I remember going to a life drawing class. I've spoken about this before with my friend. There was a local one. And I felt so out of my depth because I'd never been to one before. There's all these people in a circle drawing this lady. But there was one guy and he had the whole works on. He had the beret. And I'm not joking here at all. I promise you I'm not joking. He had the round glasses and he had the smock. And he was lunging at his canvas and scrubbing with these oils. And I was just there thinking, oh my gosh, everyone here is just so experienced. And I was there sort of barely managing to do her toe in the time it took everyone else to do like her body in 7 different positions, you know. And when we all had sort of stopped and had a coffee, I found myself turning my stuff against the easel so no one could see it.
Oh.
And I remember walking around to this guy who just seemed like the most amazing. I was in awe when I was watching him. When I look back now, I kind of think it was a little bit pretentious, if I'm honest, because when I did walk past, I didn't see anything. There was definitely no figure. There was just lots of scrubbing of paint, and he was really proud of it. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's nothing. It doesn't mean his wasn't good. It just meant he was confident in what he was doing. He was obviously inspired somehow to make these marks on this canvas, and he was just going for it. And he was really proud, you know. So
I'd love to have like confidence.
Yeah, and he will go on. Wait, unless he probably already has to probably make millions.
Yeah.
Because he has that confidence and he's just like, no, this is what I want to do. You know, if you don't see what I see, well then tough, you know. So yeah.
It always amazes me with people with languages. I know it's a different thing, but people who are really confident sort of saying things in another language. Like I know a bit of French, but when I have to try and say it, I'm a blithering idiot. Yeah. I'm totally bad. And yet Kevin, my partner, him and a mate, they went to France. And he said his mate, who doesn't know much French, is so confident about how good, not really, his French is. And he said they were in this cafe or bar or something. They were ordering food. And he just goes, his mate goes, and le vegetable? Which is, and like, apparently the bar were just like cracking up at him.
Like Del Boy, Del Boy from Only Fools and Horses, mange tu.
But it's just that, like you were saying about this guy, so much self-confidence, and yet do they have the ability to back up the self-confidence?
Well, yeah. It's almost like he believed it so much. I believed it. I was like, well, it must be good. There must be something I'm not seeing. But yeah, it's funny, isn't it? I can, if I go to France, I'm really good because I can tell someone to turn left after the bank.
Right.
Tourner à gauche après le banque. I can tell someone to turn right after the bank as well. And I can ask for a cheese sandwich.
Very good.
Yeah, but that's it.
Well, you'll have to come to France to help us next time.
That's it. That's all I can say, though. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Never mind. Right, so we go on to our previous question that we had last time. That was, what is the best piece of art advice you've ever received? I'm
interested to know what your answer is, Tara.
Oh, God.
You do. Do you know? I ask you every time, and then you always say, "I haven't thought about it."
I haven't. I just write the question down. I just cut and paste. Do you know what? I can't even think of any.
Oh, do you want to tell? I'll tell you mine.
Okay, you tell me yours.
While you think of yours.
Okay.
Okay. So, I think the best advice I ever received was actually from my Uncle Danny, who I've spoken about before, who's passed away now, but he was also an artist, amazing artist. And I remember him years ago looking at the first painting I ever did that I was proud of. And he really loved it. And that was the day he said to me, Sandra, you are now a real artist. And it meant absolutely everything. But then he looked again at my painting, which I loved, and he said, you do realise, though, that they won't always be like this. There will always be paintings that just don't work. And I remember thinking, oh, but I thought I'd nailed it. but of course, I had this thing in my head, well, now I've done one, everything's going to be fine, you know, they're all going to turn out well. But of course, he was totally right. And I think it was only a couple of paintings later that I produced an absolute monster. Now, if he hadn't warned me, I think I would have felt really discouraged. But instead, I remember thinking, well, you know, Uncle Danny told me this would happen. Because of that, I just moved on to the next. And every single time I do a painting that doesn't work, which thankfully these days is rare now, because I sort of know what I'm doing. But when it doesn't go right, I just think, yeah, I'll remember what Uncle Danny said. And it always helps. And that's really all you've got to do.
Yeah, I still can't think of anything. That's so bad, isn't it? I'm sitting here thinking. I'm sure people have. I can't think of anything. I mean, there's all little tiny, you know, snippets of things. Yeah. Someone telling me in the past, like, obviously to use complementary colours and shadows. Yeah. But they're all tiny. They're not a big.
Oh, well, maybe you can think of it for next time.
Maybe.
Yeah, so I've got a answer here from Dorothy Walker. She says, experiment and do original things. Don't copy others' work, such as in tutorials, but let yourself be inspired by them.
I think that's great advice. I always had trouble actually following tutorials word for word, if you know what I mean. Yeah. I'd rather do my own project, but use whatever they taught in it.
Yeah, I agree. I'm the same.
And we've got Deb Sane, and she says, never compare your work with someone else's. Bad art happens, so move on. You'll learn from your mistakes.
Yeah, and I've got Sybil Gonzalez Nin. Don't give up. Just try another medium. Did you give me that name on purpose because you thought I wouldn't be able to read it?
Yeah, I work them all out just so you get them. And then I've got Carol Vazenko, and she says, never give up, especially on a piece you think is hopeless. Keep going. You can turn it around.
And I've got Mary Flynn. Don't be afraid to make the darks really dark. And I'll tell you what, that's another piece of advice I had years ago that was brilliant. And I so agree with that. You know, the darker your darks, the lighter your lights will appear. So that's a really good bit of advice there.
I've got another one from Mary Flynn, and she says, don't take rejection personally if you don't get accepted into a show.
Yeah, I agree with that. I remember taking one of my paintings years ago into a gallery to see if they would be... Well, not a gallery. It was more like a little local arts... Well, it was a bookshop that sold a bit of art. I got out and she went, oh, no, that's definitely...
So bad, though,
definitely not. And I was absolutely heartbroken. But now when I look back, I realised that actually the kind of style that I was doing was completely the wrong fit for that place, and I understand that now, but I do think she could have been a bit more tactful about it. But
that sounds like my tact ability, that does.
Yeah. But yeah, it's very important not to take rejection personally. I totally agree with that one too. And I've got Cheryl Martin. She says, try new things all your life and life will take you on an adventure. Art is a new thing for me and I'm enjoying the adventure.
Okay, and I've got Mumsy Savo. She says, to be proud of my accomplishments and post my work for feedback. All thanks to KITC and the support of the group. I'm now never embarrassed. That's lovely, isn't it?
That's lovely. Sue Coulter-Lesh. Great artists were beginners once. You are seeing their work after years of practice. Yeah, very true.
And I've got Kim Hine, and she says, the same one I'm giving Miss 5-year-old. Look for the shape of things and draw those. Learning that has made my art more accessible.
And I've got Flottifort. It's only a piece of paper. If you fail, you can throw it away. That's the advantage of having a pound sketchbook, isn't it? If you're buying really expensive watercolor, maybe not.
And I've got Dorina Bell Petty, and she says, actually, it's a quote I read recently. I don't wait for the muse waits for me. I just show up. And that was a quote from, I should have given you this one, Akiane Kramaric, a child prodigy who started painting at age 4. She said this at about 9 years old. She's an amazing artist. This really struck a chord with me. Too often I wait for the muse or the weekend or the dishes are done.
Oh, I think we're all a bit guilty of that one as well. Yeah.
I can't believe a 9-year-old said that. It's so wise.
Yeah. Scary.
One day we'll
scary,
be that
really.
wise.
I have got Queenie, and I'm not going to say the rest because I don't know how to say it. It's
XCVII. I think it's a Roman numeral, but I'm not sure.
So Queenie, she says, keep practicing and don't focus on your style. Get the basics down and through your practice, your style will emerge. Just keep practicing.
I've got laughing out aloud at you or me. Redos are okay. Keep at it. Just never throw it away and quit.
I've got King R. England. Don't stare at it for too long. If you're overthinking it, take a break and come back to it later. My wife, Vanessa L. King. I think your wife is very wise.
And I've got George Bike Fitter. Let go of expectations and outcomes. Play. That and a version of something said above. It's only painting a canvas. What's the worst that can happen?
Okay, so today's question is, where do you see yourself creatively in 5 years? So where do you see yourself creatively in 5 years? Ooh, that's an interesting one.
Yeah, I'll have to think about that one for next time. As always, you can tweet us your answers at Kit Creatives or let us know in the Facebook group, which if you haven't joined, I suggest you do. We will also put the question up there and on the Facebook page, and of course on our Instagram page, which is Kicking the Creatives. And just before we go, I want to mention the challenges we have coming up for May. So first of all, we have a brand new challenge, which is called Blooming Marvellous May. We are challenging you to create a piece of flower art every day throughout the month. You can use any medium you like, such as paint, embroidery, clay, printing, digital, or mixed media. You could even use actual flowers.
We also see the return of Miniature May, so we're challenging you to create a miniature piece of artwork no more than 5 by 5 inches every day throughout the month of May.
We've also got Quick Kit May, and Quick Kits are our monthly challenges that you can complete in 15 minutes or less a day. For May, we are challenging you to create a simple drawing using your non-dominant hand every day throughout the month. This challenge stimulates the creative side of our brains by using our wrong hands. Studies have shown that when using our dominant hand, only one hemisphere of the brain is active. However, by using our non-dominant hand, both sides of our brains are active.
And finally, we have Kick Time May. Kick Time is our monthly challenge designed for those creatives who would prefer to sink their teeth into one big project over the whole month rather than to take part in lots of smaller ones. And it's designed for any kind of creative project. We'll give you a prompt each month and you can use it to inspire a story, a poem, a piece of art, a piece of music. The list is endless. The best part is that you get to work on any creative project which is inspired by that word for a whole month. We'll give you a brand new prompt word at the beginning of every month to use as your inspiration. And the word for May is evolution. Don't forget to pop over to our website at kickinthecreatives.com to find out how you can take part in some of our upcoming creative challenges. And of course, there you can also subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you're enjoying the podcast, we'd be so grateful if you'd just leave us a little review on iTunes or even just a star rating if you don't have much time.
Of course, as well, if someone doesn't use iTunes and uses, say, Google Play or Stitcher, if you give us a review on there, that would be great as well.
Yeah.
And don't forget to check out and subscribe to our weekly YouTube videos, Art Kick Sundays. They're light-hearted and fun, but they are informative too. So if you want to laugh at our expense, go ahead and have a look. And I just wanted to mention, we did that podcast relay, didn't we?
Oh,
last
yes,
week.
we did.
And I know that your Creative Push, who we tagged in the relay, and also 3 Point Perspective, the illustration podcast, they're both, I think, going to be putting out their episodes soon. So if they haven't already by the time this airs, check those out as well.
Yeah, and that's the where they're going to be talking about our subject we covered last time, which was using art to convey a message or a story. So that's it.
Yeah, that's it. We're done. We didn't go off topic too much, did we?
Oh, as we always do. We always do. Right,
Yeah.
Sarah. So we will chat again in a couple of weeks. Well, we
Yep,
won't
see you
really.
soon.
We'll chat in 5 minutes, but we'll
Yeah.
chat to everyone else in a couple of weeks.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed the episode, and if you did, perhaps you'd like to share it and leave a review for us on iTunes. Back soon! So, you've got a question for today, haven't you?
Oh, we've got to read out some of the answers first.
Oh, yeah. Hold on, Tara. Hold on. Charlie's come in.
Oh.
You need socks. They're in the tumble dryer. Hopefully they're. You know you're live on air, Charlie. Luckily he's not. Oh my goodness. Right, I can't remember. Yes, start again.
Okay, so you've got to read out Dorothy Walker.
Yeah, but you haven't asked the question yet.
I have. I've asked it, and then you've said what your best bit of advice was. This was last time's, yeah?
But you haven't read this one out yet, which is where do you see yourself creatively in 5 years?
No, because we've got to read out the questions that people did for the last one, which was
Oh gosh, I've put them in the wrong place. Okay, right. Oh my goodness. Okay, right. So let me just. Okay, right. So yeah.
You got them now, yeah? Dorothy Walker, you're reading out, yeah?